Hello, everyone. Hello, viewers. My name is Safiano Sani, and you're welcome to the Golden Touch Music Academy. It's so nice to be here, and I'll be your instructor today. I'll be your vocal coach, and I'll be speaking on the introduction to voice training, the introduction to vocal training for singers. So, in this video, we'll be breaking down what it means to be a singer, the basic concepts you need to understand from the scientific view to the artistic view, the aspect of expression, bringing out concepts and ideas, and how you apply them into songs, basically. So, we'll start by x-raying the term singing. We'll start by understanding what singing is all about. Because when you sing, you're actually using your voice to communicate melodic sounds. You're using your voice to characterize a song. So a lot of people ask me, what is singing? How do I know I'm really singing? So singing is different from your speech voice, what I call your natural broadcasting voice. So the voice you speak from is basically different from the voice you use when you're singing. So the singing has to come with a certain embellishment, a certain character to it, and we'll be extraying all of that. And so we'll interpret singing, first of all, from the artistic view. So if you're defining singing, singing from the arts view is creating sounds, melodic sounds that are pleasing to the ear and that could communicate to the human soul or the human spirit using melodies, using harmonies, resonance, and using your system of articulation, basically. So when you're talking about singing from the art side, is creating expressions that you interpret with your voice in the form of melody that could pierce the human soul, that could communicate a certain sound, a certain character, and a certain emotion. So I always say this most of the time that singers are vocal actors. So when you're singing, you're acting on pitch. So when you're acting on pitch, first of all, for every acting script or every acting setup, there's a character behind it. So in this particular understanding, your voice is your character. I repeat, your voice is your character. Your voice plays out the character of the song. And then the script is the song. So it's the script that determines how you apply certain effects, how you play out the character, how you interpret the tone, how you interpret your volume. That's the song. The song is your script. Your voice is the actor. And then the lyrics are what I call the deciding factor of, okay, what style you're using to apply yourself while you sing as an actor. How do you interpret the lines? How do you interpret the meaning of the words? Okay, that comes from the lyrics. Because without lyrics, without words put to music or words put to sound, you don't really have much to interpret, if you would agree with me. So the lyrics is like your guideline, is what guides you in terms of interpretation. And then your voice is the character that brings out the beauty in the script. And then your body is the instrument. Your body has a very big role to play because your body is your support system for singing. If you don't understand how your body works, which is the science to singing, which I'll go into in a bit, you would miss out on interpreting your song in the best possible way. So as a singer, you're an actor on pitch. You're singing out the speech. You're bringing meanings into the speech, into the lines, into the words. That's what you basically do as a singer. So you're interpreting the meaning of the words as a vocal actor. So you check out the lines, you check out the words, you check out the meaning, and then you study what to apply when. You study what dynamics, whether you're using moderate volume, you're using loud volume, you're using very loud. It depends on the meaning of the words you are interpreting. For example, if I say, "You are the great God," that's good, but it doesn't bring out the character of great God, greatness and God. So if I say something like, you are the great God, you are the great God, you are the great God. You see, great and God now is showcased from my voice as a vocal character. So I'm bringing out energy, I'm bringing out emotions, I'm bringing out a bit of strength and power to great God because of the meaning and the significance of what I'm saying. So that's basically understanding singing in terms of the artistic definition. Now let's go to the science of singing. Now, the science of singing has to do with your body and how you also use the various chambers of your body to interpret music as a singer from the singing point of view. So, your body is your instrument. How do you use your instrument? What part of the instrument are you coordinating to shape a particular sound? So, when we're trying to understand the science of singing, you define it this way, simple. Singing is a production of sustained speech sounds aided with relaxation in terms of your breath. So you're using your breath as your support system to aid your speech, your sustained speech. Meanwhile, it's different from regular speech. It's sustained speech regulated with relaxed breathing and an open pharyngeal space links to your nasal cavity and your oral cavity, basically. So when you are using an open pharyngeal space and then you're using supported air pressure, and then you're mixing it with melody and it's coming out pleasing to the ear, then you're singing. That's singing from the science point of view. So understanding the science is very important because then it now takes us to 4 core areas. I call them biomechanisms. Biomechanisms for singers. So your power source, your sound source, your resonance system, and then the last is your articulating system. So understanding how you breathe is very important. First of all, how do you breathe as a singer? You breathe in from your nose, your nasal passage, and then you take the air deep down into your lungs. Your lungs expand basically to receive the air you are inhaling. So you inhale. A lot of singers do it opposite. They inhale with their mouths, they inhale with their nose, they just mix everything. But as a singer, you have to make sure you do what we call deep breathing. Your breathing has to be deep. That way, you are training your lungs to expand as much as possible to receive the air you are inhaling. So I'll just do a brief illustration of deep breathing. So this way, it goes this way. You're breathing in, then you're exhaling out. You can blow out when you are exhaling, when you are exhaling, or you can hiss out. So let's do the breathing in again, and this time around we'll hiss out. In, 2, go with me. In, go, in. Hiss out. In. I'll blow out. In. Make sure your lungs are expanding to receive the air. And then out. So that's how your power source works. And then you also have to make sure that you position your posture in such a way that the air flows deep as much as possible. So for singers, when you stand, for example, if you're standing, you have to stand in such a way. I call it the upright chest position. So you stand this way. Mind you, you're working on your power source. So you have to coordinate and align your position, your standing, your posture in such a way that it enables free-flowing breathing. So that your air is going upwards, your air pressure is going upwards and not bouncing downwards back. So you breathe in. Out. And then there's a temptation to completely drop the chest. I would suggest that you keep the chest moderately upwards so that the sternum beneath the chest section do not bounce the air. downwards, back, so that you don't have scattered exhale. So you want to use what we call full exhale in such a way that as you're breathing in, the air goes deep, your abdomen expands, your abdominal muscles, your lungs to receive the air, and then you exhale without bringing the chest down so that you don't push part of the air backwards when you are exhaling. So that's very important for posture. And also another important part of posture is your knees. You have to make sure your knees are unlocked. You have to make sure your knees are free. Don't tense, don't squeeze your knees. Don't stand and then you tense every part of your body. You have to make sure your body is basically relaxed. So one of the posture exercises I give to help you to connect your power source, which is your breathing, is okay, you take your hands up. 1, 2, go. So your hands are going up. See if you're trying to touch the ceiling. And then you bring your hands down. So meanwhile, you're trying to achieve what we call a vertical and upward alignment. So, and then another key note for posture is you imagine a wall. I call it the imaginary wall, as if you have a wall directly behind your back. Very important. So you think of it as you have a wall directly behind your back. So there's no place to bend your back into. A lot of people, when they sing, they bend their back. It's called sway back posture. That's very wrong. So you want to make sure your back is upright, you see? Then your spine is aligned upwards. Your spine and your hip section is aligned upward. And then you bring one of your feet, preferably forward. And then, importantly, you make sure your toes are relaxed. Don't put the whole weight of your body on your toes. The alignment of your upper body has to be vertical. And then I was talking about your knees unlocked, then your toes free. You separate them from each other. Don't put your toes together because any part of your body that is tensed or squeezed sends a negative nerve reaction. And then, the whole nervous system is connected in such a way that it has a way of now showcasing itself from your vocal production, from your phonation. So when you are tensed, for example, and you say, I will bless the Lord, oh my soul. You see, that person probably has a wrong posture. Probably because if you're not posturing yourself in such a way that you are relaxed and then your air can reach deep in its spectrum and then exhale out the right way with your chest in a particular position and then your shoulders not jumped up. So very important, when you're raising your chest, you don't raise your shoulders. You have to take note of that. You keep your shoulders relatively still in its position and then you can raise your chest with the sternum, which is beneath. So you can raise it this way. So in a moderate way, whether you're inhaling or you're exhaling. So posture is very important for your sound source. Let's go back to our power source. So your breathing, I've explained that it has to go deep in your spectrum, your substructure, which is your diaphragm and your lungs. Now, how do you know you are breathing well when you're singing? There's a procedure for breathing, which is the inhaling and the deep breathing. Now, there's another procedure which I call the breath support. So when you're doing the breath support, you have to now make sure that you do what I call a diaphragmatic action exercise. So in other words, it tasks your diaphragm to pulse in certain ways that support your air pressure. So your air pressure is supported very well, and then it helps you to also gain balance in terms of control over your pitch. Because if you don't have balanced air pressure and your support is not strong and good enough, well deep-seated and good enough, it can affect the balance of your pitch, especially when you are ascending from mid-range to high range, or if you're going from chest voice to head voice, you're breaking and sliding in between registers. So you need as much air support as possible. So I'll be giving us a short exercise on support. This exercise, I call it the cough-like exercise. Ah. So let's do like we're coughing. After me. And it helps also to position your hands in such a way that your thumb goes to your lower back while the front of the remaining fingers are at your lower abdominal area. So, ah. 1, 2, 3, go. Ah. So you're transferring the pulses and the movement you felt when you were doing the coughing sound. You're transferring them now to actual words. And then you sing, making sure that that pulse continues, whichever word you're using as you're ascending in pitch. So that gives you more balance over your breathing support. Because it's not enough to just breathe in and you know where the air is going to. It's also enough to know how the air supports your speech, your sustained speech, your lines, your melodies. So, and then you can substitute the with haze. So we go hey. The same movement. Hey. Hey. And then there's another aspect I give. Ha. We're using H now. Ha. Hey. Let's go. Ha. Hey. And now we'll go ha. Then we'll do hey yo. Let's go. Ha. Hey yo. Let's go. Ha. Hey yo. Ha. Hey. So another part of the support is where you do the coughing and then you substitute it for hisses. It's a bit rough because it's actually like a coughing sound. So it's not going to sound very coordinated, but just try and make sure that movement, that's the most important thing with this exercise, that pulse-like movement, the up-down movement from your abdominal section to your rib cage is very active. You can check that out using the check I gave with your hands. Ha. S. Ha. S. Ha. S. Ha. S. And then another part of this support exercise, you can do them in short sequences where you breathe in and then you exhale, making sure that movement. A lot of people, when they're done with the exercise, when it's time to apply it in singing, they just forget and then they go back to throat singing and then they wonder why their notes are pitchy. So you make sure you continue that movement. You don't just leave it after the exercise is done. You continue, you use those pulse-like actions to support and attack your words. So we breathe in for 4 counts and then we hiss out, sustaining the hisses for 4 counts. In. Out after me. Okay. Now we'll do the coughing now. We've done the sustained breathing and hissing out. So we'll do the coughing and then the staccato kind of hisses. S, 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 So the hey is like you're transferring what you felt for the pulses, those diaphragmatic actions, into a word. Hey, and then you make sure that expansion still stays the same. Very important. So another part of the support exercise is okay. You use the ha 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 ha, and then you bring in words now. We're bringing words that are used for worship vocabulary. Ha ha ha, s s s, ha ha ha. Then you can use your fist. I call that the fist blow. It's very important for breathing and support. Ha ha ha. That blowing into your fist has a way of also making sure that pulses continue. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. So I'll bring a particular vocabulary like I will worship. So we do something like ha ha ha. I will ha ha ha. I will I will worship you. Is that okay? So you see how it works, how we're transposing, or how we're transferring rather the pulses that you use for your support energy to words. So you don't leave them out. So you take them on as you're singing actual words down. So that's very important for your power source. Let's do the exercise one more time. Ha, 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 s, s, s. I will, ha, ha, ha. I will, ha, ha, ha. I will worship you. So you see how it works? So that's how you use your breathing support. So that's just a test run of your power source, your breathing, how you get your whole breathing system to support your sounds so that when you're progressing in pitch, you don't put too much strain on your throat. So it relieves it makes the balance of your substructure and your upper structure work together to give your tone a more fine-tuned and supported sound. So let's go over it again. Ha ha ha, s s s. Ha ha ha, s s s. Ha ha ha, s s s. I will worship you. That's that about your power source. And then understanding singing from the science point of view, you need to understand posture. I've spoken about posture. You make sure your shape is aligned, your vertical positioning, and then you make sure your chest is in a certain height, and then your hip, your spine is aligned upwards, what I call the vertical positioning. And then you do these exercises, you keep practicing them and make sure you transfer them into actual songs and into actual words where you can now function with a balanced tone because you are using a well-powered source, which is your air pressure. So your air pressure is coming downward, upward. So I tell people the higher you sing, the more you have to task your substructure. You have to make sure that expansion and contraction happens within short spaces of time. When you're singing, the higher you sing, the more deeper you use your structure. But I notice a lot of people do it the opposite. The higher they sing, the more they go here. So let me give you an illustration of how that works. I'll glorify. You see, I'm using mostly here. I'll glorify. You see, I'm pushing through here. I'll magnify. But see, when I'm using the balance of my lower abdominal muscles to support my sound, see how it will go. I'll magnify. I'll magnify. You see how balanced that's sounding as opposed to I'll magnify. You see the difference? So that's why it's important to use the right support system and then you make sure your power source is functioning very well when you sing.